All right, good morning again. So it holds what looks like a lot of lines, highs, lows, value areas. It just simply works. It's not going to work all the time, but like I said yesterday, these are great areas to have on your chart. It can look a little overdone. It can look like you have a lot going on, but really all you need to do is understand where your direction is, understand where the price is in comparison to yesterday's value areas, the high lows, and the overnight high lows. Once the overnight high lows are swept initially, I disregard them a little bit more, but I do consistently and constantly take consideration of the value areas of yesterday as well as the high lows of yesterday. So if we get into it here, right, it just looks like I've got lines everywhere. What's what and what should we really pay attention to? Well, if you remember, let me break this down to just one chart. All right, so we're on the 15-minute NQ futures. I drew these boxes in yesterday saying that these were areas of interest. This was the highest box I had placed in yesterday, and then the three lower boxes are still not been touched yet. Looks like we're possibly working our way down there now. But let's take a closer look at the box that was affected yesterday. So what I said is I essentially ignore the charts unless the price action is within my box. Once it is, I then start to pay attention, and I use all of my sort of lines as indicators of what direction I want to take. We knew that we've been in an uptrend. We started to consolidate all night. We had somewhat of a resistance here, so I had said if this box is taken out, and not a breakout, because you can see if you try to break out a few times, you are probably wiped out, or at least stopped out. But if you can get it closed above this box, find some stability, right? Stability just means to me that the bulls bought well above, bears couldn't bring it any lower, and then bulls take control and push it back up. So that's sort of that breakout, consolidation, retest, and then off we go. It's not a clean retest. I wouldn't call this a retest necessarily. I'm just using sort of all the phrases that people would use. A retest to me is when you actually really do, let's say you left here, as it did, it comes back, it retests this zone after clearly leaving, and then it moves off. Now, ideally, this would have just gone higher. Instead, we double topped out, and then really we just consolidate for the rest of the day. So on this move here, if you're looking to be aggressive instead of the breakout, well, that's the 15. If we go down to the 5, if you wanted to be pretty aggressive about that, you want a nice close, a push away from the box, and then get as close as you can to it. Aggressive would be buying right about here, right when the sellers push to meet these previous resistances. If you wanted to be a little bit more on the conservative side, I wouldn't really say wait for the breakout above the wicks, only because you're putting a lot of risk on the table there. There's 40 points. But most likely, you've got one red candle, one green. If you can get the second green candle to get above this guy right here, you'd go in at 4, let's say, we'll call 430. And then your low, you could play down to 405. That is 25 points. You could play down to about the 3/4 inch range, because what you're looking for is momentum. So you don't really want it to be retested. Now, depending on which way this went first, you might have been wicked out on that. You could have gone back in again once it got over the body and still gotten a good play. But that was pretty much the move. I believe that is where I started taking moves yesterday. I might have been a little bit early on my first move after I saw this come down, and I could tell that we were inching up out of this box that I drew in for interest. We were playing at this time. This is now the new value area high. I think we were just above yesterday's at that time, if I'm not mistaken. And as I started to see this climb up, kind of a higher low here, I was anticipating a breakout. So I was in for just a half contract size to see what I could push. I think I got only 15 points. So that initially gave me a nice 150. Then I needed to go off and do something on my other job. So I had to leave the charts. I saw that it had already broken out. So what I was looking for was essentially a retest somewhere down here. And I know that I was probably in on the earlier side around before 1 o'clock, but right at the end of the lunch. I think I took my shot. I didn't get stopped out. I know I needed 15 points. So I was probably in here. I probably took this shot here around 423, I think. And then just using sort of half to 3/4 the candle down to go in. And I didn't get that full run. I just got 15 more points, a quick scalp. I just wanted to get above 300 for the day and call it, as I was just very busy yesterday. And it just didn't seem like this was really trending out. I mean, you saw a lot of consolidation in the morning, one breakout, and this big dip here too. That was an interesting thing. Sellers tried to push real quick, it came down on something, and then it just came right back up. So once I got my 30 points of the day, I walked 2 half-size contracts, $300. I was done. Now, that said, like I said, it plays to sort of find areas of interest first. And once you're in your area of interest, look for your best bet. These lines here, again, the value areas and highs, lows are just indicators of obstacles in the way, areas to break through, areas for retests, areas for resistance or support. You don't have to pay much attention to them until you're already in the trade. And of course, they also tell you, what it's doing. So for instance, if we look at right now that all these highs, lows, and value areas are set for today, you can see that this yellow line is the daily candle. So we're currently below yesterday's daily. We are below yesterday's low of day. We're below yesterday's value area low. So for all intents and purposes, we're bearish right now. Now, on the macro, we are still bullish, but and the first thing I'm going to be looking for is if we start to give out this triple support overnight low here. We have a weekly high volume node. I'm not too concerned about that right now. You fall through that, there really isn't much until 28977. So if we start falling, going into market open, this is starting to become a pretty big move. So be hesitant about that. Watch out. Sometimes you get a nice pullback when the overnight has a big move. But if we start to give out, there's really nowhere to go, essentially, but down, right? I mean, I don't know where bulls would really want to step in besides a previous resistance, now hopefully turning support. If you want to stay to the macro trend, then the macro trend is long. Well, you really want to get out of this downtrend first, right? Or you want to wait for a new support to sit if you're going to let it fall all the way back down to here. But if you're saying, okay, well, I don't think it's going to go that low, and we are still primarily bullish except for in the overnight and this little bit of consolidation, where could you consider going long at? So in that case, let's get rid of this box here real quick. All right, let's get rid of this line real quick. And let's do exactly what we did yesterday. Hide everything. All right, let's go to the 15 and take a look at this. So you see there's a little bit of a pattern here, right? They did the same thing. A little bit of consolidation, a pop up. It came down, it consolidated again before it went back up, right? Consolidation, pop up, a little bit choppier, and now we take a fall down until we start to consolidate again. Now I will say this choppiness and consolidation here did meet with this nice resistance as well as this support. Well, that was pretty close, not quite. This is a pretty thin structure here. And I think if it starts to fall, it could fall fast. Again, down to 29,000 again. But let's just say we're not going to do that. Let's just say it consolidates here, starts to move back up. Well, this is overnight, so I'm not too concerned about that. This is pretty choppy though. So right now I would say you've got this line here, 29,367, right? And I won't put an indicator or a line in because it's going to bring everything back. But for going down, we want to get out of this cluster here. We need to start working our way back up. And then we have really got to start getting out of 365. Now, if you're getting out of 365, you've gotten out of all this mess here. And then I would say you could chance equal highs at 472 up to 500. But it's really choppy. It is not clean. And so today, honestly, sort of feels like a day of patience. And if you're going for longs or shorts. I mean, I almost feel like shorts are a little bit easier today. You know, just if you look left, very little to the left, but when you look left for longs, exclude this still doesn't look great, right? This doesn't tell me bulls or bears were in full control here. So going back into this mess of price action, who's going to have control? Unless it shoots straight up and really gets out of here and starts ripping after 480, which in this case, yeah, longs are pretty easy and straightforward. But at the very least, break out of this channel, right? Find your support and start making higher highs and higher lows and look for those longs. And then you just use your lines. That's where, again, your lines of value areas and highs, lows start to become obstacles or exits. I'll take that out real quick. So say you want to break out of this here, you start to put in a higher low. Well, you know, first target, value area low, right? Maybe you miss value area low, it starts to bring it back up. Well, you know, you've got your previous week value area high and yesterday's point of control. So then, all right, there's a second out. If you miss that, I would be a little bit more careful until you get to, because then once you get to value area high, you're getting into premium prices from yesterday, and we don't know how it's going to react today. So at that point, you want to find acceptance above value area high, and realistically above high of day, consolidate and go, right? That's exactly what happened here yesterday. It took a minute to find its way out of this 15-minute zone. Once it did, it broke out, had a small retest of these wicks, and then off we go. So you'd be doing the same thing today, just a little bit higher. Otherwise, look out for these lows to lose support, maybe a little bit of retest of the overnight low, and then off we go down to the box that I created yesterday for this first guy right here, this resistance, resistance, and then explosion. Breaks through that, and we're going right back to the start of that parabolic move right around here at 850. So, you know, keep it easy, keep it simple, keep your boxes in. I don't think any of my boxes would actually change today. If I look, I mean, this is just a cluster of a mess here. So I'll have a new box up here. Here we go. So we'll call that a new box there. And I don't really see anything. I mean, we're starting to develop something here in the overnight, right? But this could easily just fall off. So this could just be a guide for now, right? If this is where it sits when we open, we come down, retest this for rejection, off we go. I'll stay out of the mess in between, look for anything above the highs, anything above the overnight lows, and see how far we can take it. That's all I got. Any questions? Please feel free to comment. Again, still building this channel, trying to figure out how to express how I trade and trying to give any ideas, hints, and tips of what can save you from all the mistakes that I've made in my previous years. All right, good luck. I'll see you tomorrow.